I mean, was there ever any thought of like, I'm going to go to TNA, I'm going to do something else, or was wrestling for that moment in the back burner?
Yeah, definitely. I had to take a break. And I tell fans all the time when they'll be like, oh, don't you think wrestling's stale right now? Don't you not like this? I'm like, take a break. You're like, it's going to be there when you get back. Like, you're allowed to be down on it for a minute, but it's meant for entertainment and it's meant to bring, like, feel good, like an escape from your job. And if it's not doing that, take a break, because it wasn't doing that for me, at that moment. So I needed to take a break. And, yeah, I don't remember what it was, as far as coming back. But yeah, I couldn't watch it sometimes when I broke my neck because I was so sad to be at home. I wanted to see my friends on TV, but it was painful, so I needed to take a break.
You did like little comebacks here and there, and then in 2012 for Raw 1000, they were having all these legends in the lead up be the people who beat up Heath Slater, and then at Raw 1000, you were the legend who came and beat Heath Slater. Was there kind of some sort of pride of like, oh, now I actually feel like, I'm being honored a little bit for the stuff that I did rather than Survivor Series?
Yeah, that one was fun. I pitched that to Brian. I think they just had, they bring people back and they had something, whatever, just very standard. They're like, oh, so you could do something like this. And I was like, what if, and brought that out. And then they're like, oh yeah, we could do that. And so, yeah, I mean, that was, I do remember having fun, and it was fun. Heath Slater's character was really good and somebody he knew how to get booed and enjoyed getting booed. So, it was definitely, it was fun. It was a little 5-minute segment, but it was fun. Yeah.
And did you find like when you would come back and do these little things that like, it was repairing like in your mind the kind of what the history had been, and like every time you would go back, they would be sort of like, your legacy would mean more and more because they were mentioning it more and more?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think even like after that, once I'd kind of come back and had a good time, it was like, yeah, sure. It's not that I sit, unless I'm asked specifically about it, it's not something that like crosses my mind or that I sit and like dwell on or like have anger towards or whatever. Like, that's just, the story I told is just the way it happened. And in that moment, I did feel that way. I'm good,
And then, you ended up you got put in the Hall of Fame in 2014, and then in 2015 you became a coach on Tough Enough. Kind of this full circle moment of like your career. What kind of led you to want to do Tough Enough, and what was that experience like of you being on the other side?
So 2014, it was a really interesting time for me. I was spending a lot of time in Nicaragua. I was surfing. I was just very off-grid and kind of just happy and doing my thing, but not thinking. We always wonder, like, around January, we're like, who do you think they're going to put in the Hall of Fame this year? Like, not on my mind. Not thinking about who they were going to put in the Hall of Fame this year, and then getting the call for it. I was kind of just, I think because I wasn't on my mind, I was like, oh, okay, you're cool, thank you. But what didn't, at the time, initially being told, feel like, finally, like, the thing I've been, like, thinking about and, like, dwelling on for so long. I was just like, okay, great. And then, but I kind of opened up my Facebook and Instagram to the fans saying, like, what do you remember about my career? Because I wanted to remember and think about what to talk about during my retirement, or that's kind of a retirement speech, but like your Hall of Fame speech and everything. And having these fans share all of these memories that I had forgotten about because I just kind of like set everything on a shelf for a minute. And I was like, oh, that was cool. Oh my gosh, yeah, that was funny. Or like, yes, I enjoyed that. And just kind of watched a lot of the stuff and I think it just made me have that. It wasn't even until then that I really had an appreciation for my career because I wasn't mad about it. I just didn't think about it. I was like, okay, I can take a nap now and and go surfing or go do whatever I want, right? And so I think it wasn't until then that I got to think about like, wow, like these were really good accomplishments. I finally got to have that moment that I was pushing away for so long that I didn't want someone to think that I wanted to use WWE as a platform to get into movies. I didn't want someone to think I was using that, like whatever the things were that the office was like, don't go get the big head. I was like, yeah, no. And so I finally got that moment, and it really did like bring a sense of peace that I wasn't looking for, didn't know would feel that way, but I just had Trish and I were just there all week. On Hall of Fame week, they don't really load you down with appearances. You literally just do the Hall of Fame, and so you're just there hanging out with all your friends. And so like, I was like, well, this is so fun, And I think that kind of turned the corner where, like, you watch wrestling, you're involved in wrestling because it's fun, and some days it does feel like a job, but you want it to outweigh it, right? You want it to feel like fun. And so I think that kind of turned the corner. And then when I was asked about Tough Enough, I was like, yeah, this sounds like fun, and the excitement of kids kind of coming up, wanting to follow and like create their own path.
And then at WrestleMania 32, you were the one who unveiled the belt of the women's title, goodbye to the Divas title. And you'd gone before the Divas title had come in. What was your kind of feelings going through your head when you were there, sort of like ushering in, we're back to the women's era rather than the Divas?
So the break I was talking about, that then the butterfly belt appeared. And I remember calling Trish. I was like, yo, what happened? The belt is pink. And she's like, oh yeah, that happened, And so I think that was like, and so it felt really good to, I was there, I was producing at the time, and really closely was brought in to work with Becky, Charlotte, Bailey, and Sasha coming in all at the same time, kind of, and I really loved being there producing at that time. And the way I viewed that role was, I want to be the person that I wish was there for me when I was wrestling. You're so young, you don't know who to listen to, you don't know what to do, you don't know what's worth the fight, what's worth it. Just take a deep breath and it's fine, but you're like, but I'm so mad about this. It's like, but it's really not a big deal. Just, there's time to do that. There is time to go, well, let's sort this out and figure out how to advocate for yourself. And so I really enjoyed that. And so I was there producing those matches. I produced the match that was it was Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha, in Texas at WrestleMania. And to be there for them, and then to hand the belt over, and really did feel like starting a new era. It felt important, it felt cool, it felt full circle, and I was real proud of those girls.
So you'd obviously come back and done various things. You were in the first Rumble, you did Evolution and all that kind of stuff. But then in 2022, you were announced for the Royal Rumble. It was in advance. You were clearly coming back to do something. We just didn't know what it was yet. How far in advance were you kind of contacted about the run, the Becky match, etc.? And what made you decide, I want to come back and do this?
So Rumble, they had asked fairly early. It's usually right around Christmas time, and it's so annoying because you're like, oh, I have to go to the gym now and not eat all the Christmas cookies. But so it's just around that time. But a little time to get in there and train before you hop in. And the first Rumble, which was the only other Rumble I'd been part of, was sprung on me so 2 days before. I had an appearance. I had to take a red eye. I went to go practice with the match, and they're like, oh, we need a picture of your neck to make sure, like x-rays or whatever, to make sure you're okay. That took all day at the doctor's. The first time I touched the ring was the first time you guys saw me touch the ring. So I had no time to get comfortable again. And so while I was so honored and would not have given up the opportunity to be part of the first Royal Rumble, I was like, am I gonna hurt myself and everyone around me? This just feels weird, So that part was very uncomfortable. Being there for the Rumble was awesome. But so this time I was so all right, I need gear that's not from Old Navy. I need, I want to plan these things. I had made friends with a local wrestling promotion in Oakland, where I was living in San Francisco, and was going training with them a lot, and really not took it seriously. I took it seriously as I really want to do this. But so all I thought I was doing was the Rumble. And they asked me if I wanted to face Becky as I walked out of gorilla position from the Rumble. And so that's when I was asked about that.
And I mean, I'm guessing that's a yes, I would like to do that. Or was there hesitancy? How were you feeling when they asked you?
Well, it was fun. I mean, I was literally still out of breath. And I was like, my initial reaction is yes, but let me come down off the adrenaline and make sure it's still a yes, and yeah, it was still a yes.
And because obviously, doing it in Saudi Arabia, there had been sort of political things. Women couldn't even wrestle in the first one. Was there anything in your mind about that, going, I need to kind of wrestle with this in my mind? Or was it no, this is going to be great for us to do this?
Well, so, I mean, I was definitely one of those people when they made the deal with Saudi. I was like, this doesn't track. They're positioning women in WWE, giving them opportunities that they haven't had in the past. right when they go make a deal with this country that women can't vote, they can't drive, women can't come to the event. Like, this just doesn't seem to track, right? And they said, they go, no, but we've talked to them. They're open to it. They want this to happen. And I was like, I don't know. And then when I saw it start to happen, so then by the time they asked me, not only were we going to wrestle, we were one of the marquee matches, and Becky and I ended up being the billboard all over the kingdom, which is the first time in the history of that kingdom that any woman was on a billboard ever. There's never been a woman on a billboard until Becky and I were. So it did feel important, and it felt full circle, and it felt like, as much as I was a pioneer on the front end of women's wrestling, doing a moonsault mimicking S.A. Rio's finishing move, to have a hand as a pioneer in, on another level, socially and politically, with a kingdom that is working to give a slightly more equity or equality rather, to the gender bias.
And like, and when you do the match with Becky, I mean, how, because like you say, you've got this history with her where you were producing her first WrestleMania match. You'd not really had this like proper one-on-one big epic match. Were you nervous going into it? And more importantly, how did you feel going back through the curtain at the end? What was the mindset?
Yeah, it was really interesting because, I remember what that's like when you're on every house show and wrestling every night, and you're in that pocket, and you're like, I could wrestle with my eyes closed. I didn't feel like that. I had been training and I felt good, but I was like, it was fun and I embraced it, but I really leaned on Becky, and she had come to me for so much advice over the years and asked my opinion on things. I'm like, girl, you need to help me. I want to make sure I don't make you look bad. I don't want to look bad. Like help me. And to know she has my back just as much as I have hers, and to be able to have that moment while leaning on her, again, like another really full circle moment. I was like it just, and also it was very different, much like unlike all of the time in my first chapter of my career. I was so in the moment. I could feel everything happening, and I could sit there even like circling before we lock up. I was like, this is cool. This feels really big. I really, and as opposed to just being so like on to the next. I'm like, there's no next, maybe, I don't know, but I'm right here, right now, and I'm like feeling this and soaking it in, and it just felt totally different from that and the SoFi, the stuff in SoFi. I just felt like I could really be in the moment in it, which in a way that I don't feel like I ever really was.
My favorite quote that you said about the Becky match was, "You felt like a tourist in the ring," which I thought was you said this to Steve Austin. What do you mean by that? Because is that different compared to when you were in the moment before, where it felt like this was your home, you're doing it all the time? Is that what you meant by tourist? Like you're kind of coming in to do it?
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like I'm watching it happen while I'm doing it, as opposed to when you're so focused and you're like, don't mess up, do this thing, you can't see it. But I felt like I was trying not to mess up and doing the thing, but also seeing it at the same time,
And you mentioned earlier that WrestleMania 22 at that point was your favorite WrestleMania moment, but it was overtaken by SoFi with the tag match with you and Trish and Lita against the Damage Control. Why is that? I mean, I know why, but why is that match for you now the moment?
Because I was there for it. Like in a way that I wasn't there when I was younger. I just don't think that I could be in the moment because felt the pressure of the full-time roster and being there and making, I don't know, I just didn't feel the pressure, so it allowed me to see it. I have this video where Trish and I were driven to SoFi. We had to go practice our Sin City, like the black and white entrance earlier in the day, and so we were outside, getting dropped off, and walking into SoFi for the first time. It's a really cool-looking building, and it's giant. And then they had the movie posters of everybody up at the huge stage. And so we were walking in, and I put my video on before, and it's like you can just hear Trish, me and Trish, and she's in it, and we're just like, oh my God, that's so cool. We're just like giggling and like looking, and it's just like, it's all over the place. Like, it's not a great quality video, but it kind of encapsulates like everything that happened that day. I was there. It feels like I feel like I could tell you hour for hour what was happening that day because I was there, as opposed to when you bring some of these moments back, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't even remember that. I believe you that you're telling me that happened, but I was just there. So I feel like it's my favorite because I remember it the most.
And then my last question to you is, because you do the match with Becky in Saudi, and then you do the 6-woman tag at WrestleMania 39. Trish obviously has done the run later that year with Becky. When you kind of look at your career now, you do appearances. Do you want to do a run, or do you feel happy with what you've done? Where are you at right now?
Yeah, I feel really happy and really at peace with what I've done. And if I never step foot in the ring, I'm good with that. But at the same time, like, my body feels really good. They're doing such awesome stuff with the women now. And, things left a little strange with I was the tag champ, and then the next thing I know, I was on the ground. So, I think there's definitely something there, but is it okay if it's left the way it is? Like, it's kind of like at the end with the horror movie, and you think you've killed the monster, and then he comes back up at the end. Like, it's okay if it like leaves. So I do feel okay with it, but I think there's something there too, and I feel really good physically, and I'm very, very thankful for that. But yeah, I know that both of those opportunities came up pretty quickly, and to be set up for something even with like more training and more lead time, like, I think that it could be really good. But I'm good. But we'd still have fun watching another match. Yeah. Okay.